Hey, sports card fans, welcome back to another episode of Two Guys, One Hobby with Don and John. How you doing, Don?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
Good, good. I was telling our guests as we were doing a pre-show discussion that I still am working on the hangover of the National, still reminiscing of all the good times, and I finally finished up doing like individual videos of all my pickups. So now I'm back to normal average pickups that I normally do. So getting back into the non-national swing of things. So
Like videos about bragging about how much you paid for cards, right?
yes,
The last one. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, because it's all about the flex.
that's right.
Yep. Yeah. So Don, it was your turn this episode to pick a guest, and you did a great job in picking a guest. Hopefully he lives up to my hype for this video here. But how about you introduce him and we'll get him on.
This guy is one of my really good friends in the hobby, and just a great guy, great collection. He was really not thrilled on doing live videos or even though this isn't live, but chats like this at one time. But I used my my Misfit pull and prestige and power and was able to play that card and get this guy on here. So let's welcome my fellow Misfit, Rick, Vintage Oddball Cards.
Hey guys.
Hey Rick.
I think this is actually my first time doing something like this.
Really?
So yeah, I mean, I've been on live chats,
Yep.
just jumping on, and there's 3 or 4 people, and we're just shooting the bull.
Yeah.
I think this is actually the first time, face to face here, talking about just my collection. So I never do this. I don't really like to talk about myself. So.
When you give gifts like this, I put you on the show.
There we go. There we go. So
yeah. Hey, Don and I are easily bribable. So
yeah.
If you want to be on the show, we'll put our addresses down the bottom and all that stuff. You can. But yeah, this will be the first time that the focus is entirely on you.
I know, it's kind of scary, actually.
No. Well, whenever we have a guest on, we check to see what they would like to talk about and some facet of their collecting or the hobby. And if you know Rick and his collection and his channel, you know that you deal primarily, not completely, but primarily, your biggest cards are pre-war, and a lot of them are hard to find and rare. So the topic of today's conversation is, the hunt for those rare cards. And I guess you can extend it to newer cards if they are rare issues. So it doesn't have to necessarily be pre-war, but Rick, we'll sort of hand it over to you to start the discussion and why you thought about that topic and maybe some examples, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so just a little background. I started collecting early 70s, and you would have typically, your Topps cards, and that's basically all I knew was Topps, Topps baseball, little football, but mostly Topps baseball. And then, my mom would be she was huge into garage sales. So she would bring home boxes of cards, and most of them were beaters, Topps, and I'd put together the sets, and I had no idea. I'd use the actual checklist, that they had with it. And some of them were already marked up, and I would remark them because I didn't really know. I'm now 10 years old, maybe, had no idea, I'm just trying to put these things together on my bed, this, that, and everything. Well, the jump to, so that was through the 80s. Then the 90s, got married, had a son, didn't really lose interest, just whatever, life goes on. And so I basically skipped all the 90s, all the bright stuff and this, that, and everything else, something like Nate Topps 85401 would collect, things like that. Mm-hmm. So now we're early 2000s, and I go online, baseball cards, eBay. What's this? You could find out in Willie Mays, Topps, this, that, and everything else. And I was just like mesmerized. I didn't even know eBay existed, but I didn't know there was baseball cards on there. So I thought, you know what? I have most of the Topps cards that I want, the 60 sets, 70 sets. But, what's this other stuff, like a Ty Cobb little disc or some kind of regional issue, and I thought these are really cool. And so since the early 2000s, I started collecting this type of stuff. And I love the history. I used to be a high school teacher and love researching the stuff. That's half the fun, is finding it, but also researching it. What's in the checklist? Where these things come from? I would even look up, if it was Yingling or whatever, Thorpe or whatever. I would look up, is that building still there?
Well, that's cool.
Things like that. Is it still in business? And a lot of stuff we just don't know. We really don't know. I'm going to show you some stuff that they have an idea, but I've never seen packaging of some of this stuff. Was it actually placed in the package outside? Was it given out at a store when you bought a candy bar? We just don't know. So I love the research. So research and just trying to find it is a lot of fun for me. So I have some stuff here. I call them oddball too, because it's non-standard stuff. For instance, a 52 Num Num early win here. And it was only Cleveland players. And these were placed in packages of pretzels, potato chips in the Cleveland area. And you can see the back here, kind of what it looks like. So stuff like this, I would research. I think there's like 20 Cleveland players, and you would cut this here, and it was meant that if you turned in all the 20 cards, you would get an autograph of whatever player you wanted, And so something like this.
Is it hard to find those, Rick, with that bottom tab on, kind of like the Redman cards? Or...
Not really. Not really. Not like Redman. These are not, I'm saying rare. It depends on what you think is rare. For you, maybe you've never seen this before. You might go, hey, that's rare.
Right.
They're out there. Maybe if you're looking for a particular player, it might be tough. But you can find Num Num. They're not. It's hard to, rare. I've changed my opinion on rare, over the years. I would call everything rare. John Mangini would call everything rare, and we'd make fun of each other. But is it actually rare? I guess it depends on the person.
It's almost unique.
It.
Sometimes it feels more unique than rare.
Yeah.
Because
if it's something that like this, I can find, I'm sure. But something like this Uncle Jack's candy right here. If this is Bill Terry, okay? Well, this particular card, you might be able to find a particular player, but maybe not Bill Terry. It might take you a year to find it. So I would call, this particular card possibly rare. And these were basically, you would have, and you can actually, once in a while, you'll see packages of this in which you'll have the player, a card to have a chance to go to the world, I think the 1933 World Series, and a piece of gum. Okay, so again, I would go, hey, what the background on what's this? How many's in the set? So if I was looking for a particular player like Bill Terry, definitely hard to find. I might be able to find a comment somewhere, but Bill Terry or Babe Ruth that comes up for auction maybe once a year, once every couple years, because it's in their collection.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Now, are some of the cards that in your research, maybe in some of those sets or others, do you find that maybe the Hall of Famers are short printed, that the manufacturer maybe in to entice people to buy their product?
Oh, sure.
Maybe not with the
sure.
Nap Lajoie Gowdy, where they didn't put it in at all, But
Oh, sure.
I have to believe that some of the star players of the day, they may have made less of them and more of the commons again, to if you wanted to, one, complete the set, or two, if you were looking for those big name players of the day, that those may be harder to find or short.
Oh,
printed.
yeah.
Have you
It
found out any
happens.
of that
Well,
stuff?
I don't know what percentage, but there's plenty of sets like that. There's one set with the Casey Stengel. There's a Canadian set, Honey Boy, that they short printed it, so the kids couldn't find it, so you wouldn't be able to get a mid or a ball or glove. There's plenty of sets like that, and these cards never come up. Never ever come up. So some of them, they're not even sure if the card exists. In the checklist. So those would be but just doing my research on some of these old sets, it happens all the time.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be the American version, can be Canadian type, so.
Now, the first card that you showed off, you said that was put in packages of pretzels?
Potato chips, pretzels.
Potato chips. Were they, at least that copy there, doesn't show any signs of grease or anything like that. Were they protected at all? Do you know? Or
I see a little grease stain, and you're not going to be able to see it, but there's a little grease stain. So I don't believe these were protected. I don't believe these are protected.
Okay.
But a lot of the stuff we don't even know. We don't know. I guess we probably would know for 52 because it's not that far. I mean, relative to a pre-war card,
yeah.
But I believe these were placed directly in, just like this one here. This is the 1960 Fleischmann, is a bakery card here, and it was placed directly in the packages of bread.
Okay.
Or a loaf of whatever it came in, the container of bread. So
wow.
And this one's very tough. It's missing the bottom here. The big
so that one had a tab?
Yeah, it would have a tab that you would turn in for whatever.
So was that actually on the box or something, Rick? It says hand cut on the tab up top.
Well, I think don't they? If you take the tab off, don't they count it as a hand cut? Don't they do
it might? I don't
hand?
think these were I think these were hand cut per se.
Okay.
So I think you're right with the tab being hand cut, but I didn't really pay too much. On the back here, it has a little Scott's drawing too to make it a little extra.
That's good.
And I don't mind this at all. I'm saying this is a one. Amos Struck, he's a pitcher, nondescript, average player, but it brings a little character to the card.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you see it like that. So anyway, these were in Christy Mathewson. I would love to have, but that's thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So you don't see these too often. Around the same, let's see, I get some bigger ones. How about this one here, this exhibit card, 1961 exhibit, Wrigley Field, home run Baker. And these were actually given out at Wrigley Field, basically. So a particular game, it could be Babe Ruth. It was all retired players, I believe, and all the famous, retired players at blank back. So it's called a 61 exhibit Wrigley Field issue. So I love this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
Now Don's familiar with this, and it's the Pittsburgh exhibit 62.
Oh, the Kennywood.
Yeah, Kennywood.
Yeah.
It's still in business, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kennywood's an amusement park.
Yep.
So
around
this is
for over 100 years here. Yeah, and still in.
Five of Hearts. And I guess they were issued at the park, but also I read somewhere where outside of the park too. I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think there's a Mente in that set that's really tough to get.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a particular player, that particular set's not, that rare. But if you're looking for a particular player, you could wait for a year or two before that player comes up.
Yeah.
This is kind of an oddball. The 1928 Ruth Frojoy ice cream.
Okay.
And he's actually fielding, which you never see Ruth fielding. And I've seen the actual photo of this, the Type 1 photo. And I believe, if I remember right, it wasn't in a game. It was whatever, practice or pre-game or whatever. So it wasn't actually in the, in the field of play. And it's what I like about this, it has youth units. So you eat some ice cream, it's going to make you strong, basically. And Ruth is a cracked fielder. I loved all the writing back then. But this was 1 week they produced or handed these out. So if you were one day, they're all Ruth cards. And one day you could have them fielding, one you could have them batting, different ones. And they would issue them just that one, each day, one different card.
Wow.
So they are kind of tough, to I don't know.
So I guess 7 of them, Rick?
I'm sorry?
Is there 7 to that set then?
I believe there's
probably not on Sunday.
You're testing me. I think it's 6.
Yeah, they probably.
But it might be 7. Might be 7. That's the only one I have of.
And where were they distributed?
These were distributed. Good question. Well, Frojoy.
Was it regional, national, state, or it wasn't more?
I imagine it's more regional.
Yeah.
We did it 1 week.
And actually, it has. You're not going to see this, but it has right where my finger is here. It has a little ice cream stain right there, where the kid probably was picking it up like this.
Yeah.
Because obviously that's what year? 1916.
That's 1928.
1920. Okay, so 1928. Obviously some survived, but if there was only certain ones issued on certain days,
exactly.
Then so I'm thinking it had to be at least a regional issue where there was at least initially a decent amount for them to have even a small amount today to survive.
Yeah. And there's another 1928. It's the George Ruth Candy Company. They look exactly the same size and everything else, but it was George Ruth, same kind of advertisement promotion. So obviously, whoever, maybe it was, Babe Ruth's agent that came up with these things, whatever, because he would advertise for everything.
So most of these cards are basically advertising pieces for products.
It wasn't for the card.
Right. They're trying to get you to buy the cigarettes or the ice cream or whatever it may be, the bread.
Yeah, exactly. this one's really tough. This is the 1929 Leader Novelty of Frank O'Doul, Lefty O'Doul here. And these were placed in packages of basically like candy packages, but also they were in a strip form too. So besides being placed in a package, you can get them probably at the store in some kind of strip card form also. So this, a pop on this is probably like 2, 3. Now there's probably more out there. It's just they weren't graded, so you just know. This one here, this is definitely a oddball and kind of rare. It's a 64 metal gold dairy of Willie Mays here. And this was taken right off of the carton, the milk carton.
Oh, okay.
And you also have Koufax and Mantle. So these are really tough to find and definitely not the most, the prettiest thing in the world. But being a Mays collector, it's kind of something.
What I find interesting is and most not everything, but most of the stuff you've been showing so far is sort of pre-war. But at least for me, and I think maybe if you don't as well, because I don't think you have many pre-war cards in your collection. I have very few, maybe a couple T206s. Just by looking at the card, it's if you just saw a card raw, ungraded, most of them have blank backs or maybe some advertisement. There's a lot of knowledge that you need to acquire if you're really serious in collecting pre-war. At least that's how I see it, because all these sets and regional issues and a lot of the cards that I've seen that either you show off on your video or some others that deal in pre-war cards, a lot of them have the same look on the front, the same image. One image can be of a player can be used in multiple sets or designated sets, and so it's like, well, how can you tell? Obviously, if you get something graded, you would think it has the right designation. But yeah, to me, pre-war is just an unknown universe to me. I'd love to get into it someday, but it's going to take some learning on my end to pick some of this up. And of course, you've been doing it since 2000 roughly. So yeah, you have 24 years on me in terms of your knowledge of pre-war and stuff.
Yeah, well, people ask, well, what is that the E131, the E101? I can't remember yesterday. I don't know,
That stuff baffles me, all those numbers.
I don't know.
I don't have a clue. I know what T205 and T206 are, and that's about it.
And you can ask me tomorrow, I'll probably forget, whatever, So.
No, when you said around I think you said it was around 2000 that you discovered eBay and hey, all these cards on it. Once you started to get interested, did you go out and buy like one of the standard catalog of sort of price guides that had all these cards? I mean, how did you start your research and looking into
exactly? I would use that. That was the.
Here's a really good book for that. I don't know if you have this, Rick.
No, I don't. No.
So it's got all kinds of pre-war sets. This is really hard to do on camera, but you can just flip through them, and I don't know if it has all the rare ones, per se, like the food issues, but these books can be found on eBay, and it's a good way to learn about some of these cards, John.
What's the time frame on that?
What's that?
What's the time frame on it? Does it go from what date to what date?
Goes up to 55 Bowman.
Okay.
From
the so what? Probably, I'm assuming like the cards from the late 1800s.
1886 to 1956.
Okay. I'll have to look for that, because it just to see some of the cards and stuff, because even in the catalog there, because of the size of the number of pages and stuff, you may see one example, but it's all black and white. So that would be great to see some color images of some of these cards, even though some of the cards are in black and white.
The auction books are pretty cool to use too. I don't know if you get it. I know, Rick, you get them because of the auctions, but obviously you may not be able to find a specific card, but there's still so many great cards on those things, and they're free.
They'll mail a big old thick thing. I don't know how they pay for that stuff.
Oh my gosh, I know.
They're literally heavy, and but they do a great job. REA, all of them will explain kind of where the background of the card, but also the set. They do the research, so I learn a lot of stuff from them. And a lot of times they're wrong too. They'll come up with something that's maybe not quite true, but I learn a lot from
the REA one.
Yeah, so they'll have it, and they'll have a paragraph or two of a particular issue, how many's been graded, where it comes from, So that's one way I find stuff. Yeah, right there. So there's a nice background on it.
At the past nationals, I'd always walk by REA's booth, usually on a Sunday, and they'd have some extra copy. Hey, And they're like,
Yeah,
yeah, take one because we don't want to take it back because they're heavy. I forgot to this year. I meant to stop by to see if I could pick up because I have at least 5 of them here, maybe going back to 2017. And yeah, they're just cool to look through and just to see some of these cards.
They're all, I mean, museum stuff you just never see. So yeah, if you just, enroll in their program or their site, and they don't ask credit card information or anything like that, you'll get catalogs.
Yeah.
Come up with a username and password, and I'm pretty much Heritage to Love of the Game to Leland. I have them all. So and
so obviously there's more to finding cards than eBay. So when was it that you started to look at some of these auction houses? Because I know you've picked up some cards, won some cards from some of these auction houses, because some of these cards are so hard to find that usually they tend to come up in some of these auction houses rather than on eBay. So when did you find out about them? How did you get in? Maybe what was you remember your first?
I would say probably about 5 to 7 years ago, because I was running kind of out of options. eBay just nowadays doesn't have these types of cards. Very rare you would see one of these cards now being sold on eBay, because the person selling it, like in REA, there tend to be more expensive, kind of odd cards. And so the people selling them will go to the auction houses to sell them, not on eBay. So especially when PW, not that I was a big fan of PWCC, but they would carry a lot of these types of cards. And when they moved got kicked out of eBay, so basically I would say probably my cards I pick up now, probably 95% of them are auction house cards.
Okay.
Not eBay, because they just are not selling on. I'll never find them. I still have my search,
Yeah.
Each night I'm home, have a glass of wine, my wife's watching whatever, and I'll sit there and just kind of scroll through. Take 5 minutes for me to scroll through my list, and I'll usually do like newest arrivals or whatever. I'll scroll through that. Okay, fine. Nothing interests me, or I'll put a little mark on it. I'll save it. Might be a card I already have, just to see what it sells for, or who knows? I just have the searches. I probably have 100 saved right now, and so. But I would say most of it is all auction house now.
Sellers to go on auction houses because they don't pay as much, correct? As far as fees and things, the auction houses kind of work with them a little bit, depending on what it is they're selling versus eBay.
Yeah. I have never really had an issue with any of the auction houses that I've purchased. You get the card within a week. You don't have to. It's not sent to PSA or whatever, and you get a month later you get the card. You can call them. REA, you can call and talk to someone. Hey, does that card have a wrinkle? This looks like it has a crease. They'll get on the phone, or don't even. I have people will call me and go, "Hey, Rick, you're looking for Babe Ruth cards. These are coming up on our REA auction or our Heritage auction. You might be interested."
He's got people.
Yes.
People that call him.
Or you could call. So I've never really had an issue. If you, Golden auctions, I've never had an issue. I've bought cards from Golden, but they sometimes you got to research that card. Maybe it's on PSA on their website, and you look on a website, geez, it looks completely different than what they're hiding on Golden, and so you got to be a little careful how they, they try to hide, not just them, and it's just a few cards I've noticed that if you're unsure, you kind of want to do a little background on the card, see if you can find it. And even VCP, the cards that I purchased, many of them have already been bought, sold a few times, maybe in 2010, 2015. There's only a few of them. So,
Sure.
and I can actually see my cards that I purchased 4 or 5 years ago on there,
Okay. Yeah.
So then you can see the pictures there, compare them to, the auction houses. So.
Yeah. And the National has been pretty good for you too in terms of picking up some cards. I know you picked up some really nice ones at this year's National.
Yeah, because it helps to actually see the card,
Right.
And plus you don't pay the fees.
Yeah.
You're not paying all those fees too.
Yeah.
So, but people say, if it's not at the National, that's not true at all.
No, that's not.
It's really not true.
Is
no,
how how do I want to put this? Maybe whether or not you have a specific target list when you go to nationals. Do you find that it's really hard to find some of the things you're looking for? Fairly easy. I can't believe that some of the things you're potentially looking at, they're all over the place because of the rarity or scarcity of them. But how do you find the National or maybe other card shows that you may go to, say, out in the California area? How hard is it to find some of the things that you're looking for at, say, a big show?
I think really difficult. I mean, even stuff that's not difficult, like say, if you're looking for the 54 Ted Williams, Wilson Franks, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have one, but I was kind of keeping an eye. If I noticed it, I would notice it. And there was only a few that I saw. And I would comb the different multiple times, So even something like that, there's not a lot at the National to go. And the one I received is I got a Ty Cobb card, and I saw only total of three there, So there's not much of there's a lot of cards you just don't see because they're either in a person's collection, for a lifetime. So if it's a Cobb or someone like that,
or someone may want to trade up, that they have some of these cards, but they're looking for an even bigger card, even rarer card, and they'll say, okay, well, I may eventually part with this one and that one, maybe try to make some trades, so then it gets back into quote unquote circulation. But that, again, that doesn't happen very often.
Well, then, I was talking to Andrew Enough Said Cards and Josh Rated Rookie at the get together, and we were talking like rarity of a card. Well, for me, there might be, let's say, 30 cards out there. Well, I can probably only afford 5 of them because I need a low grade, either a 1 or 1.5, a 2 at most. So there might be 30 on the PSA has 30 graded. Well, I might be able to only afford a couple of them,
right?
Because it might be 4, 5, 7 grade. They're totally out of my league. So I'm very, that makes it even scarcer for for
right.
something.
The Ruth cards you bought at the National with the blue pants.
Yeah. I got it right
here. You knew about or were on your radar, or did you just come across them because they were Ruth cards? And
yeah, this one.
Yeah.
That one right there. Yeah.
Yep. That's really
so cool. You were in probably the chat, you don't remember, but I remember we were in our chat and Misfit chat, and I said, John, or you guys, have you seen these things? These are really cool. They're actual photos, small photos of players. I had no idea. This was probably 3 years ago. Look at, there's Ruth and Cobb. There's the only Ruth and Garrick. That's the only card that they're together, playing day card. There's Mathewson. I think I got to have one of these years, And so I just happened to, I think too, is sometimes if one sells, like one of these sold like 6 months ago, and it was for $15,000, okay? Because it never comes up. So somebody goes, hey, look at that one sold. I'm going to put mine on there.
Right.
And so now the past couple auctions, I've seen more than I've ever seen, which is not that much. I think the pop on this is like 6, all grading companies. Well, people put them out there. They're going for that kind of money. And if you look at it, this thing here probably 10 years ago went for, $500,
Yeah.
And now they're going, geez, man, thousands of dollars. I'll put mine on, that kind of thing. So they all come out of the woodwork.
Yep.
And so I was able to kind of jump on.
So you obviously knew about it then. I wasn't sure if that was.
Well, yeah. I mean, but this is like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think, not to toot my own horn, I think I pretty much know. Nothing surprises me. I know I've seen it all. Not that I have it, but I know I've seen everything that's out
there. So John, we have this Misfits chat that's been going on for a couple of years now. And between Rick and John one-upping each other on these amazing cards that you've never seen before, it's like I'm learning stuff on it. I don't know what they're called, but it's like, I had never seen that card before in my life until Rick showed it to me at the National. But the cards that these two guys throw up, like the rest of us just sit back and let those two go at it. It's just amazing what they have.
So, I pretty much pre-war wise, I think I've seen, or maybe even the 50s, I've seen somewhere catalog I know something about a card. Nothing really surprises me that comes up, for auction that's that I don't know about. I might not be able to afford it.
Yeah, right.
But I know about it.
Yeah.
Now, what do you have any minimum requirements, I guess, for condition? Because as you said, say for some of these copies out there, there may be 30, but 20 of them may be like PSA or SGC 5s and 6s and 7s that are way out of your budget. When you're dealing with especially pre-war cards, to you, is there certain conditions that you won't buy a card? But just,
I mean,
you have an example. There's a child's writing on the back of one of those cards.
Yeah,
so obviously that
wouldn't bother me. Or if there's some paper loss, especially if it's a very expensive card, I'll do a paper loss if the front looks really nice. It might be a 1, but it was in an album, so it was kind of protected. I have a Ruth card, I have a Cobb card like that the front looks great, and I can.
Obviously,
you have to have some kind of backing to it.
I have back there. No one looks at the back of them,
Yeah, and I have pinhole cards. I have Ty Cobb. I have a Ty Cobb right through his nose. Somebody pinned it right there. So if you raise it up, you can see it in the light. It goes right through. And I think that was my most viewed video. Is they graded it a 3.
Really?
PSA graded a 3, and you can, you see it. I mean, just by going like this, you might not see it, but I mean, you can see a pinhole through his nose, And they graded a 3, and saved a lot of money buying it, even though it was a 3. The guy told, "Hey, there's a pinhole," But that doesn't really bother me. Just as long as it presents well, I don't even care if it's authentic.
Okay.
Depending on the card.
Yeah.
Or minimum size. I've kind of changed my opinion on that. So if I were to see a Ty Cobb Cracker Jack card and it looked presentable and looks nice, but maybe it was shaved on one of the sides, or I mean, I couldn't afford something that looks something like that. I've changed my. I used to be kind of.
Well, yeah, I mean, like it's not quite beggars. Beggars can't be choosers. But with some of the cards you're dealing with the total population count, and then of the number that may be in your price range, it's almost like, okay, I don't want to say settling, but you almost have to look at those types of conditioned cards.
Not like he's buying this, or something like that. It's like, okay, this you want looking really nice because there's 9,000 of them.
I want to talk. Somebody, one of the big collectors, says, "Hey, I saw this card on one of the auction houses," and he goes, "It's a total beater, but it never comes up. I think I'm just going to bid on it."
Yeah.
And so if I have it in my collection, then if I can maybe upgrade and it looks more presentable, but I'm getting kind of desperate, that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
I don't know. It's everyone's, people come like Dylan with his perfect centering on the card, and I can't even go there.
Yeah.
The things I collect,
Yeah,
I'll just buy it. I don't even care if it's whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Yingling ice cream cards from, was it 1928?
2028. Yeah, 27, 28.
I just did a search the other day because I'm like, maybe it'd be nice for me to own one of those cards because Yingling isn't that far from me, and even some of the was it the American Cameral cards from like York and Lancaster and stuff?
Yeah, York.
That's
Yeah.
sort of in my backyard, so it'd be nice to have one of those cards in my collection. Again, it doesn't even have to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But even some of the commons are pretty expensive. But I just did a quick look on eBay, and like, none of them are centered. You got creases, you got corner wears, and I look at it, and normally centering is big for me, but I'm like, hey, for a card like that, as long as it's somewhat presentable, I would throw the whole hey, it has to be well centered out the window when it comes.
I mean,
to
you obviously prefer that, but if you can save 50% on the price, or they're looking for a particular player, and a lot of that stuff has a lot of character to it. You see these finds in which it's a tobacco card that's in a 9. It looks like it's brand new, fake. It just doesn't look right.
I mean, when you get a card that old in such a high grade, it to me it doesn't look right. It shouldn't be. Yeah.
The whole set or the whole fine looks fake, but whatever.
Now, I would take one of those cards,
but
it just doesn't look right, so I don't know.
Agreed.
John,
what?
Do you have a trivia question tonight?
Yes, I was going to say we're a little bit past halfway, but I did a trivia question here. Sort of dates. Well, it technically does date pre-war, so I figure that would maybe be the majority of this conversation. But what was interesting is I went to this website, just did a search for baseball trivia and stuff like that. And I don't want to state this guy's name, but I went to this website and it was posted, I think let me just pull this up here. He did this page or this little blog in May of 2024. So it's not an old website where maybe stats may have changed and all that stuff. But I was going to use this other question, and I'm looking at it, and it was multiple choice. And I'm looking at the multiple choices, and I'm like, that's not right. And so I did my own research, and the guy's answer to the question is wrong. So here's the wrong trivia question. Who's the only player to hit a grand slam in an all-star game? Do either of you know offhand? I knew of it right away.
Musial?
No.
I don't know.
It was 19. Oh shoot, I had it up here. When I looked it up.
Around what year?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. 60s. Let me see here, because what year was it? It was 1983.
Oh.
Now I don't know if he's the only one. He was the first. So let's just I'll couch it as the first.
Bo
but
Jackson?
The question was, who's the only player to hit a grand slam in an all-star game?
Bo Jackson?
No. 83. That's a little bit before Bo Jackson.
That's true.
Reggie?
Nope. The answer is Fred Lynn.
I would never guess that in a million.
And I knew that. And I
he hit against a giant pitcher.
I want to say he played for the Angels at the time or something. But anyway,
he hit against a Giants pitcher. I know it.
He may have.
We always give up home runs.
Atlee Hammaker.
Yeah, Giants.
Yeah. All right. But the question was, who is the only player to hit a grand slam in an all-star game? And the choices were Ted Williams, Lou Gehrig, Willie Mays, or Derek Jeter. And they said the correct answer was Ted Williams. I'm like, I knew he hit like a game-winning home run. Was it 41 all-star game or something like that? I'm like, no, that's not the right answer. I said, I think it's Fred Lynn. And I looked it up, and sure enough, it was Fred Lynn. So here's a correct question and answer from this website. All right. Which team was the first to win back-to-back World Series titles? Was it the Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, or Pirates? First ever back-to-back World Series champs.
Cubs. Red Sox, Cubs, Pirates.
Pirates, Cubs, Red Sox, or Yankees?
I'm going to go with my homer pick, the hometown team.
You're going with Pittsburgh. What's your...
did they win back to back? I would say the Philadelphia A's, but that's not one of the... all right, I'll say Yankee. I'll say Yankees just because.
Rick, they were the second team to win back-to-back World Series. The A's. Philadelphia.
It was the Pirates then. It was the Pirates then. No?
All right, so you're both going with the Pirates? It was the Cubs. 1907 and 1908. Pirates won it in 1909. The Giants won it in 05. Boston 03. So the Pirates didn't win it again until, after 1909. 1925?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. So the Cubs won it in 07 and 08, and then the Philadelphia Athletics in 1910 and 1911. So,
I think that Philadelphia Athletics probably had the best baseball team of all time.
Wasn't that they called it the $1 million infield? It was like the $100,000 infield.
Collins and Connie Mack, and then he had to basically sell off all the players and you know what? One thing on our little chat thing is you guys know how many John or Don might know this because it's in the chat, but how many times Lou Gehrig stole home? Just throw 15.
Really?
He's one of the all-time leaders of stealing home.
Now, is that stealing home or stealing home safely or?
Probably safely.
Safely. He wasn't stealing the bag. He was the home plate. He was stealing.
Yeah. Wow, 15.
15 times, which is kind of crazy. You don't think of Lou Gehrig doing that, but it was kind of crazy.
That's almost like a lost art now. I mean, wasn't that? I don't want to say popular, but Jackie Robinson would steal home. Some other play, like I don't know, maybe it was up to the 50s or so that you would hear of players stealing home, and now unless it's some fluke misdirection play or something like that, and then someone steals it, it's rarely done these days.
Yeah.
And maybe because the pitcher gets it to the mound faster, that it's a lot harder. Maybe back, decades ago.
I remember, maybe in the 70s and 80s. I mean, the Pirates teams had all those Frank Traveris and Omar, Marino. I think they probably did a few times, or the Cardinals teams. But you're right; it was not very. It didn't happen very often,
Yeah.
And on the other end, what I found surprising is Clemente, for example. He barely has any stolen bases of any base. Like, it's shocking how few stolen bases he has.
Yeah, because he was a fast runner, wasn't he?
Yeah, I don't know the story behind.
And I'm wondering if he was just
the Pirates, because Murray Wills had like 60 one year with the Pirates or something like that.
Mays could have had more steals, but he would stay at first, so they wouldn't walk McCovey, that type thing, So he would just stay on first.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so maybe there's more strategy to it than his ability to be able to steal a base.
Who's the all-time leader of stealing home? Do you guys know?
Oh,
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it was in the chat. It's God, it was today. Moses. Which his last name's Moses.
Wood Moses, the first black major leaguer.
Oh, God. So I never pay attention to Mangini. Always comes up with these trivia questions.
no.
Today.
The all-time leader in steals of home with 54 is Ty Cobb.
Oh, Ty Cobb, but I don't know what the question was.
Moses, that's close.
Most stealing home base records. Ty Cobb in the American League, Max Carey
Max
in the
Carey,
National
that's
League.
right. Why don't I say Moses?
He
Max
played with on Pittsburgh and the Brooklyn Dodgers. But Ty Cobb had 50 with the Tigers and 4 with Philadelphia for 54. And in the season, it's Ty Cobb and Pete Reiser of the Brooklyn Dodgers hold it the record in the season. But yeah, I mean, if you look at some of these dates, even like 2 in a most steals of home in a game. There's several players with 2 in the same game, but the most recent one was Vic Power in 1958. Everything else is in like the 1910s, 12s, 1915, something like that. So it doesn't happen much anymore.
Yeah. Well, I imagine the players way back in Ty Cobb didn't field the ball cleanly. I mean, they're mitts, you know what I'm saying? So they're probably juggling a little bit or whatever.
Like I said, I think there's a lot of factors that in today's game, it's not impossible, but to try something like that, you would think that it would almost be done on a botched suicide squeeze or something like that, and it technically comes down as it books it down as a steal of home, but it was meant to be a suicide squeeze, and
or the pitcher's not paying any attention, whatsoever. He's a left-hander, and there's some of these relievers nowadays. The guy's halfway to second base before he, it's like they don't even care. The closers. No idea.
What's on your list, Rick? You have any particular players or cards that you're eyeing up?
There's a Chrissy Mathewson that's in one of the auction houses that was cut off a sheet that I never see that's coming up that I'm going to bid on. And a lot of these things I bid, but I just don't have, I mean, they go
prices,
way out, So
where does that date from?
That's around 1910. Yeah.
Wow.
So no, I never see it.
Now, do you ever extend anything in your collection? I know you have some like and I don't understand the difference, and Dawn, I think in your video there you said you don't quite understand the difference between type 1 and type 2 photos, but I know you have some photo stuff. Do you ever look to buy any newspaper clippings from back in the day of say a Christy Mathewson that may have appeared in a newspaper as someone clipped out and stuff? Do you ever buy anything like that for your collection?
No, but people do, but no. It's just, I mean, I'm actually selling off some photos. I just have to, I mean, I'm 61 years old. I have too much stuff, so I'm trying to downsize somewhat.
Don't let my wife hear anything about too much stuff, because then she'll start looking at my stuff and say it's too much. So yeah,
I've done a few, videos selling. I brought a bunch of stuff to the National. First time ever, I've sent off stuff to Probstein, of all people. And what's kind of crazy doing the research is I might have mentioned this on a video that I've had a bright idea of building the 67 set graded. Okay.
I remember you saying that.
And I got about quarter to a halfway there, and I say, what am I doing? So I have commons, 67 commons, PSA 9s, okay?
Ooh.
Wow.
And they're going for $150, $200 for common players. They're in PSA 9, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Where if you would just, there could be a nickel, you know, if you just a beater or whatever, it could be anyone, you know. And getting Jack Hyatt, a catcher, that's $150, you know.
Insane.
So I've been selling
it's
those.
these PSA registry people that they want to just increase their score and stuff. What made you decide? You probably said it on a video, but what made you decide to at least initially even attempt this? What was it about the 67 set?
So one of my first sets I ever built was the 67 set, all raw. Okay, mostly beaters from my mom at garage sales, because back then, man, there was all kinds of stuff. People didn't know what they had, you know.
Right.
I barely knew what I would say. She would say, "Hey, Rick," and she would use the person's phone. You know, it was back then where she would call the house. And, "Hey, can I use your phone? I'm going to talk to my son." Hey, and I always say, "Just pick them up. You know, I'll pay you back. I'll pay you back." You know, that kind of thing, you know. So she'd bring home boxes of cards and 67, 68, 69, 7. And I'd put together the 67 set. And then that was my favorite set just because that was the first one I built. So I was thinking, hey, why don't I build, a graded? Well, you know.
No, but why did you, because I know for me, working not only on getting the Hall of Famers graded for a 78, the 78 set, I wanted those, and I still maybe need to upgrade the Murray and Molitor rookie, but I wanted all of them 8s or 9s because the 78 was the first year I started buying cards. And the hand set I'm putting together, I want them to be really nice, ungraded, you know, raw cards as well. Was it intentional that when you started you wanted to get like 8s or 9s, or were they just at the time not very expensive and you said, hey, well,
they weren't very expensive. So if I remember right, you know, a common would be $25 even in a 9, you know, before the set registry took off, you know. So why don't I buy, you know, why don't I just do a 9 if it's 5, 10, whatever. And I didn't, you know, of course, I'm not going to be buying a 67 Mays probably in a 9, but I had already a graded 7, for instance. So it was kind of no rhyme or reason. The highest, basically what I could afford. I thought the higher the grade, the better. And
gotcha. Okay, so you hadn't built up to this point mainly 9s. There were some maybe 8s and 7s in there, but you wanted to generally a high end.
The higher the grade.
Gotcha.
And they look, you know, the ones I don't know if I have any here, but you know, they're like right out of the pack, you know, PSA 9s, and I just couldn't believe what people are paying for. You know, if it was a SGC 9, it'd be half the price, you know. That type of thing. And I have, God, what is it? Bobby Bonds 69 rookie and a 9, and that thing going for like $250. You know, Bobby Bonds, which is Bobby Bonds. He's a good player, but rookie card.
Good.
I have got, you know, and then I have odds and ends too of not just like a 61 Orlando Cepeda in a 9. And it's like $500, $600, which is crazy. So what am I going to do? I don't need a 9 if Orlando Cepeda.
Well, what you're going through right now is what you said at an example for some of these other cards. They saw that that one card sell for like $15,000. So they said, hey, I'm gonna I'm gonna sell that. You know, I'm gonna take advantage of these prices now. It's a nice card, maybe not a super special card in my collection. I might as well sell it because I can use that money then to buy something else. So this increase in prices since COVID probably brought some cards out of the woodwork because they're like, hey, I don't know how long this bubble's going to last. I want to take advantage of this. Use those funds maybe to get some other cards that I want. So
I don't need a PSA 9 61 Orlando Cepeda. I mean, Pop is probably like 30 maybe on it, but I don't care. Just not what I'm collecting, you know. So I'll take a 7. I'll take a 7 or whatever. You know, I don't need, if they're going for that kind of price. Actually, George Diamond Yard, we had a conversation at the National, and he was saying, hey, these things are going crazy. I've been buying high grade PSA cards. Him and Dylan were like this, you know, about, it was kind of funny. Don, I mean, they go on for an hour just talking, you know, about their philosophy and whatever. But George is buying high grade and reselling them, you know, on whatever, because people want the highest grade they can find, PSA in these 60s cards. And I said, well, shoot, George, I got some of these cards. And looking them up, I couldn't believe. So I've been Probstein. If you go on Probstein, you're going to see a bunch of 67s, whatever. I have, you know, and I don't know.
Are they already up for auction, or?
They're going to be there. I already sold some, and next week there'll be more. Have another, whatever. So I don't want to keep spending money. A lot of people do. Hey, if I'll sell stuff and buy stuff. I'm kind of at that point now. This stuff, you know, I had
that way you can whittle down, like if whether it's your wife or you saying, hey, I have too much. You know, I'm at the stage in my life that I don't need all this. I want to have a more curated, a smaller, nicer collection of special items. Then now may be the time to sell those items and use those funds then to buy those special cards. So then you go from a collection like this down to here, and you might have to not spend anything out of pocket because you've generated all that money for those cards through the sale of other stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I'm not looking, I mean, I could probably, these common 67, last time I looked at it was maybe 5 years ago, you know, I mean, it's just you know, whatever it is. So that's kind of everyone's just, you know, maybe next year I'll be back, you know, whatever. You can't force it. I don't know. I collect this stuff, odd stuff, or, you know, rare stuff. People collect sets. People collect everyone has your player collectors.
You need to do what you're passionate about. Yeah.
I mean, I you know, I have Babe Ruth cards, but I don't have thousands or even Willie Mays. If something hits me, I'm a huge Willie Mays fan. I have a lot of Willie Mays cards, but I don't collect, you know, I'm not searching just Willie Mays cards, you know. To me, it takes a lot, because you have to be, I mean, my mind goes 6 different ways over the year. I'll collect something and this, that, you know.
Yeah. Because it's changed and stuff. So, well, it's been around that hour. Rick, we really enjoyed having you on the show, talking about the search for rare cards. You showed some great examples of, you know, not just pre-war, but some from the 50s and 60s that you don't see every day, that are out there, and that you find intriguing and interesting and wanting to have in your collection. So it's been a great conversation.
Hey, man, thanks for it goes so fast, you know. I thought
it does go fast.
I can always talk.
I know these things could probably go 2 or 3 hours, but we try to keep it down to about
I don't want to. I don't put people to sleep here.
Yeah,
they're looking at my cups and saucer collection back there, you know.
It's going to be on me to pick the next guest. I think I have someone in mind. I haven't reached out to them yet, but it's someone that I think we would be very impressed with his collection, and he has a story sort of behind it on how he built it and so on. But we'll see if we're able to get him on for next week. But with that, and by the way, I should have noted this in the beginning. But if you're not familiar with Rick's channel, I will have a link to it in the description of this video. Definitely go check out Rick's.
I need those subs, man. I need those subs. Monetize. No. I think to monetize. I'm not monetized because I don't do enough video. You know, you need a certain amount of hours or something like that. You know, but subs are, you know.
Yeah, whatever. But you have you show off some great cards, and you don't just show off a card and say, hey, look what I picked up. You explain you get the background of the information that you found out about that card, and so you explain, well, this was found in this type of packaging, or this one has certain players or things like that. So it's not just showing off interesting cards that you may not see very often, but you give the background and some education to it. So even if you are subbed to Rick's channel, check out some of his old videos.
I don't.
I'm sure you'd enjoy him. So.
I know you're going to, but at the National, on the big screen, we're all showing our first videos. Oh, mine was so bad, man. Mine might have had to be the worst, and people were just kind of funny, how it's.
Oh, you were reading off the teleprompter. That's right.
Yeah, I was like reading. I still don't. I mean, look at the lighting. I don't edit anything. I just have a little camera. I put a lot of energy on researching, but all the other stuff, I just gotta do my thing. And people make fun of my.
Well, I think a lot of people, for their first video, they're just like, record, hi, and it's, again, because they haven't done it before and stuff.
It's scary. It's scary looking at that light going.
I haven't looked at my first video since I probably did it, so I don't know if I want to.
See, now I mentioned it, and people are going to go and.
Yeah, now they're gonna search and say
first video.
It's funny because I know but they would have God. Some of them were so funny. Who was the one that showed Don? Who was the one that showed his computer? He was doing a Mac computer.
Picker Jim.
Picker Jim.
The whole video.
It was about his computer. And some other car, was it car parts?
Video was salvage yard.
Salvage yard.
I was like, nice.
So anyway, I know we're going.
No. That's all good. It's just part of this community that we're part of, that we can joke around and
that's exactly. None of us hopefully take any of this stuff too seriously.
No, not at all.
Clown each other and just.
Yeah. So Rick, it was great having you on.
All right.
And for those of you who have watched up to this point, we appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next episode of Two Guys, One Hobby.
All right. Thanks, Rick.
All right, man. Take it easy. All right.